By wisdom a house is built, and by knowledge the rooms are filled, with all precious and pleasant riches. Proverbs 24, verses 3 and 4. Hello, ladies. Welcome to Homemakers Radio. I hope you can get something done while you're listening today. But before you go about your routine, I would like to share with you my teacup for the day. And I do believe that I got this at Roses and Teacups, which I have a link for on the side of my blog. I'll provide a link for you to go to see that, and you can go and see all the people on the list over there that are also at home and actually have used these. They're actually quite nice. I will say that I'm not anxious to clean something like that rose, but I really enjoy having it. I do think, and I have two of them. You can see one behind me on the tea table. I know there's a backlight here, but I wanted to share with you a different view of my room. And this is really not a video for watching. And of course, we want you to work. We want you to go about your work. I do have a few things to show to you today. So I'll start out showing some things to you and telling you that I'll tell you about my research today. And so this is the Camille Beckman hand lotion that I was telling you about. Always has a little rose according to the scent that is on there. This is called the French Vanilla, and it is kind of a paste that you put on it, and your skin absorbs it very well and very quickly. It's not all watery. It doesn't have a lot of alcohol in it that sometimes makes your skin worse. And the scent is so pleasant that nobody recoils from it. And this is from Camille Beckman. You can get it online. I believe it's out of Idaho. Really, really good product. The other one that I told you about yesterday was the Mary Kay set of satin hands. And this is kind of like a scrub, and this is something else, and this is something else. And there's a little set of directions in there about what to use first. If you really want soft satin hands, this is the thing to do. But I would suggest you go to a Mary Kay representative or consultant to get it, because if you get it online from somewhere else like Amazon, sometimes the product is quite old and might not work. And so I would suggest you get it from someone you know or order it from somebody nearby. And so I wanted to show you that. And yesterday I talked so long that I didn't think I would have anything to say today. However, after I left, I did another research trip. I got in my car and went to town and kind of observed what was going on. I went to Walmart, and one of the things that I observed, and I have talked to other people about it, and they've seen the same thing, is all the bread baking and any kind of baking supplies, the original, from scratch supplies, the basics were gone, and it's very hard to find your olive oil, and the butter gets very low, and some of the other products gets very low from cooking. And when you go down the bread aisle, here's all this commercial bread stacked like bricks, just one against the other, and hardly anybody has taken any. And I wondered what that was all about. And the only thing I can conclude is that ladies that now are at home have time, and they'd rather have the baked bread, and they know how to bake it. So now that they've got time, they're baking. And why should anyone, I wonder sometimes if the reason that so many people were eating the commercial bread is because they were in a hurry and they had to. They really didn't feel they had any choice. But it's just funny to see the commercial bread. Also, the products of the supermarket or grocery store that are natural, what's that called? Goodness sakes, it just escaped me. Organic, are always gone or down to nothing. You have to get there early to get those. But the other things from the farms that aren't organic, in which they probably use more chemicals in the soil, there are a lot of those. They're like the organic lettuce was gone, but the other lettuce was just a lot. So that shows you that people are living the way they want to, and maybe always wanted to. So I just wanted to observe that. Plus, I wanted to observe that I had been to the post office. Everybody's happy there, and the people that were processing my packages and my mail were chatty and nice, and even complimented me on my one of the addresses that I had put on a package was in handwriting, and I had put a lot of flourishes around it, and really complimented me on my handwriting. They said as postal workers, it's always nice to see something like that. So I did that. I said, well, I did it for you. So one thing I'd like to tell you is if you're not dressed, this is the first thing that's important is your preparation. So get dressed, and not just get dressed, get a shower, start over, put some cologne and perfume or something nice on, fix your hair and your face, and look nice for yourself, for your Lord, and reflect heaven, and be good looking for everybody. Of course, we all wish we were younger, thinner, smarter, and better looking, but do the best you can, okay? And fix yourself a cup of tea and sit down and make your list. Now, I suggested yesterday that you make your list the night before so that you could wake up happy. But you know, often when you wake up, even with the list, you still have to revise it a little bit because in the morning you're sharper and you're clearer, and you have more clarity, and you think of things that you need to do, and so you might want to revise that list. So the other thing that I observed when I was out is the tractor store is open, and some of the other shops are open, which was interesting. And so the other thing I wanted to say that I wanted to add from yesterday on Wake Up Happy and by the way, did you wake up happy? I hope so, is to get your housework done that day so that when you go to bed you can have a deep sleep. And what might happen is you might have such a nice sleep that just before you wake up, you get this wonderful feeling. You're half asleep and half awake, but the most wonderful, relaxed, happy feeling that's like, oh, bear me away on your snowy wings to my immortal home. It's just this wonderful feeling that you want to just go back and do it again because it's so relaxing. And so I would suggest you do that. I also suggested you don't pay any attention to the news. Now, another thing that I noticed while I was out doing my research was something that reminded me of the olive oil jar of the woman that helped Elijah, how she used the olive oil and then it was refilled and it was never empty. Seems to be what's happening to people around me, and that is in town and around. And of course, I've set myself in front of this window so in case anyone drives by on their bicycles, you can see that what I'm saying is true. They're happy, and they seem to have thrived in spite of all of this. And of course, the children are getting rest now, and the children are not under stress. I bet there's less need for medication now because they're getting what they need at home, and they're getting whole foods, and they're getting home cooked foods. They might even be learning to cook it themselves. So the word quarantine means 40, and I believe there are a lot of 40s in the Bible. So can you list those for me in the comments? All the things that took 40 days and 40 nights? Does that sound familiar to you? What the number 40 is? And so at the end of a quarantine, things will get better. And of course, I was never quarantined because we live out in the country and life just never changes for us. We have to go get our supplies, we have to put our gardens in, and I observed a couple of interesting things, people buying seeds and the bedding plants, you know, the seedlings that you put in, and they just looked relaxed and happy. We're doing things that we want to do. And when I get into the politics place, I'll tell you something about that. So be sure to make your list because, and this is my list, it's really a mess, isn't it? But your list is your capital. That's what will help you succeed. This is your capital. Your mind, your hands, your energy, your determination, that's your capital. And who was it that said, does that remind you of Sir William Lucas? He said, capital. Remember that in Pride and Prejudice? And then I also wanted to read to you 2 Corinthians 4, 7-11. Now, if you've got something to do, something to load, something to unload, well, I'll excuse you if you're not feeling well or you're just not quite ready to do anything. If you're laying back on your couch or your chair and you're listening, and it's just because you want to hear somebody talk to you. And, you know, I always laughed because there were people I knew that had a few problems at home or at work, and they would say they went to the stores just because people there were paid to be nice to her. So I'm just being paid to be nice to you. So I want to read this, and it's 2 Corinthians 4, 7 to 11. And this is why I'm reading it, is because what I said previously about people seeming to be thriving in spite of all of this. Not only that, they seem to have better humor. I've gotten so many interesting memes in my email that make me laugh out loud with, there was an old Chinese proverb, some good things came out of China in the olden days. And the Chinese proverb was, beware of man who laughs without his belly shaking, something like that. These were belly shaking laughs, and these memes that are coming in about, what shall I wear today to the living room? But you know what? If you were homeschooling, that's the way we lived anyway. We weren't all cooped up. We went somewhere in the car nearly every day. We took our children to interesting spots to visit. We took them to music halls and concerts in the park, and we introduced them to life all around us. We took them to the post office, the grocery store, and taught them how to shop and how to spend money, how to save money. And so, for us, it's not a big deal, but for some people it is, and they find it amusing to think, what shall I wear? But what shall I wear to dinner tonight? Really, there's nothing wrong with getting dressed for dinner. There's nowhere better to go. And do you remember? Do you remember the Sound of Music when the Baroness said, I wanted to buy you a boat for a present, or I wanted to buy you a trip around the world, but we've already been there and there's nowhere else to go. So this is the way it is at home. There's nowhere else to go. You might as well enjoy it. And so I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 4, 7 to 11. If you've got something to do, something to load, something to unload, you need to go in your laundry room, you can take your device in there and you can listen as you go. Not everything I say will be appropriate for you. Not everything that I recommend, don't try it. Maybe it doesn't work for you. But I'm just telling you what my experience is and what my opinion is. And under the law, I'm allowed to do that. So, because I remember Elizabeth Bennet was expressing astonishment in Pride and Prejudice that Charlotte Lucas would marry the minister. What was his name? Was Mr. Collins? Can't remember. And Jane said to her, yes, but Lizzie, not everyone is the same. So I remembered that one. And I kind of live on a combination of Bible quotes and old historic type stories, quotes, and old poetry. And every now and then my husband will ask me how I'm doing, and I'll say, what I have feared the most has come upon me. Because something I can't find. And I talked about that yesterday, not being able to find things. So I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 4, 7 to 11. You can remember that because of the word for, but then 7 to 11, 7-11, you can remember that, can't you? It's about being overcoming hard things, overcoming difficulties. But we have this treasure in clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. We are this just is pure poetry. I always just loved this. We have this treasure in earthen jars. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be manifested, which means apparent, in our bodies. So, ladies, try that. 1 Corinthians. Sorry, I'm kicking this. 2 Corinthians 4, 7 to 11. Now, in one of my newsletters, I just write a little newsletter like this on a piece of paper. I just handwrite it. It's just a lot easier than bringing up a program to me. Sit down and write a newsletter, and I use the margins, and I write in those, and I just put a scripture, and then I put a little recipe, and then I put the benefits of hot tea. How it flushes toxins and viruses out of your body, and I put my opinion about a few things. And last time I had something on here called "What will you do with a paper bag?" What can you do with a paper bag? And I just send these to my friends. I just had about 6 of them this time, and so amazingly I got one back, and I want to read it to you. It's from someone that I sent this to. And sometime I do want to come back and show you some things that I've done with paper bag material. And this is what she wrote. Long ago, I would use them to cut patterns out of. You know, we did use them for patterns, and sometimes an old piece would be worn out, so we just trace it on just outline it on a paper bag, so then you would have the pattern a lot longer. I would use them to cut patterns out of. In fact, in the beginning when I was doing a lot of crafts on this blog, I cut patterns out of paper bags for different things. Or, and I've never heard this one before, this is really good, I wished I had known it. When the inside of the sole of my shoe would get too worn, I would cut out 2 pieces, tracing the outside of the shoe, and then place them inside. It would restore a little life back into them, and it also absorbs moisture. Isn't that clever? I also realized, you know, today most of our shoes aren't stitched. The sole isn't stitched, it's glued, and sometimes those soles will come apart and kind of flap open, and you can trip over them. You can use super glue on those. Not super glue, but Gorilla Glue. You might have to kind of shave off some of the dried bubbly pieces that come out, but it sticks them together forever and makes things last. I used to throw those away. I didn't know what to do with them. So now we can stick our soles back on to our shoes, and it doesn't hurt anything. And you put a little bit of brown paper in there too if you want. She says, I have used paper bags to pack dishes. I've placed them in the shredder to create a bedding for gift giving of my homemade canning jars full of goodies. I've used smaller paper bags to make puppets and masks. Interesting, isn't it? Shredding paper bags can be used as fire kindling for when you go camping. Paper airplanes and paper mache. Oh, I wish she would have just kept going. But I wish everybody would write to me and tell me, or post a comment, please, what you can do with paper bags. Now, we use them because we're out in the country, and we stuff them full of paper products that can be burned. So we have a burn barrel, and we have burn season and all that. So, but we can use them for many other things. You can redecorate them. You can paint them. I even made a hat one time out of a paper bag. The hat was beautiful. It had a brim on it, had flowers on it. Maybe I'll just make that again sometime. I think it might be on, if you type in paper bag hat on the search area on the upper left of this blog page, you might be able to find a picture of it. I hope I still have it. There's some things, because we were using a kind of a picture storing place, took them off when the company went, you know, was finished or something like that. Anyway, I want to go on to a book that I want to show you, and I know you're supposed to be working, but I could just tell you what it is. It's called Cook It Right by Cook's Country, and this appeared at the grocery store yesterday, so I treated myself to it, and I don't think it's too much money because, you know, this'll stay in my cookbook cabinet for forever. And this one shows you how to make fresh hand-rolled pasta by yourself, and it's not, you don't have to have a machine, you just do it yourself. And you really don't have to have a special mixer or anything like that. And one thing I liked about Cook's Country, now there's another one that kind of coordinates with Cook's Country, and I forget what it's called, but they like to narrate their recipes by telling you all the fails they had and all the experience they've had trying to make it. And I apologize for the lighting being so bad here, but you really aren't supposed to sit here watching. This is a listening time. And so what I like is they will show the step-by-step instructions, so you kind of get a vision of what you want. And so this is a new one. If you've got somebody that's having a birthday or something like that, go and get one of these. And of course, everybody's taste is different. And as Jane said, yes, but Lizzie, not everyone is the same. So now I have another book that I want to show you. And I'm sure you've all got it. If you homeschooled in the 80s, every one of us tried to get one of these. It's an old Reader's Digest book called Back to Basics. And I liked it so much I ordered an extra copy because this one was getting worn out, and gave it to one of my children who showed an interest in this, and he became a landscaper and a builder. He's a general contractor, but he does a lot of the work himself, and this was everything you could possibly think of to make. And you know, even if you just have a backyard, or maybe you don't have a backyard, but it just at least shows you. So land, buying it and building on it, energy from wood, water, wind, and sun, raising your own vegetables, fruit, and livestock, enjoying your harvest year-round, skills and crafts for house and homestead. That's basketry, soap making, candle making, gourd crafts, woodworking, rope and twine, stenciling, braided rugs. The braided rugs were nice. I liked that. Natural dyes, recreation at home and in the wild, old time, good times, crafting in a mountain dulcimer, celebrating holidays, canoeing and kayaking, wilderness camping, outdoors in winter, fishing, living with nature. Now that I found the boys liked this one the best. This one here is also a Reader's Digest. Now, I'm not sure what year this one was published. It was 1998. Good things happened in 1998, didn't it? Most of these books that I'm reviewing were in 1990s, and this one here was 1981. So between 1980 and 2000, there were a lot of good books published. This is called Homemade Best Made, and the girls liked it the best. And it had everything from how to, and it was very colorful. The other one wasn't so colorful, but it goes from cooking to sewing to painting to making curtains for your house to a lot of homemade stuff. And it also had a homemade pharmacy here, you know, what to do about bug bites and scrapes and cuts and things like that, and bruises, and how to make party lights. And so the girls really liked this one the best, how to make a graph and enlarge things, and you know, how to make a homemade checker game, and just different things like that. So you could check this out. Now, in the olden days when these were first published, these were quite expensive, and you had to almost make I think you had to make payments on it, like 3 payments of $10 or more. But now you can get them for $4 or $5 at thrift books, so you should go for it. And you know, if no one uses these, you just leave them in a stack. They're very colorful. Just leave them in a stack somewhere. Somebody will open it and look at it. They're nice to have. Books are great for children, and I'll tell you why. They don't have to wait for the page to come up. You can go through them and censor them if you need to. If there's something there you don't think that is appropriate for children, you could pull the page out, or you could cover it with something else, and you could just lay them there, and then they can casually look forward and backward and not have to look at a screen all the time. Also can look at it as long as they want, and it won't crash. So ladies, now I know I'm going to lose votes over this one. Yes, as Lady Harriet said, we shall lose votes. We'll have to do better. She said that's wives and daughters, for those of you who are wives and daughters. And so I wanted to show you something that I've collected for quite a while. And I haven't actually read a lot of these, but I have got them because they're called Good Clean Romance. And that means that they're similar to the ones we used to read way back in the olden days. It really didn't have a lot of, had more adventure in it, and always ended well, you know. And so what they are, and I chose this one, I would buy these just because I can get them for a couple of dollars used, and I like the scenes on the front. They're always wholesome, they're always beautiful, and if they do have pictures of ladies on them, they are dressed in beautiful clothes. And they are mostly historical romances, and it's historic light stations, this one is. And I've had objections to this kind of thing. Now, there are 6 stories in here by 6 different authors, and most of them are 9 historical stories of different authors. And they're published by, let me see what they're published by. It's just but they have these wonderful end papers that open up to a scene, and I wished I had brought more of them here to show you, because that's one of the reasons I like them. And if they're not going to cost me more than a couple of dollars, I'll take them all. I'll just take all of them. Like there's the Prairie Romance Collection, and the Stitched with Love collection, and I've got that one, and that's about quilts and things that were stitched in the historical times, and the people that it were related to. They're all about love, but you know, a lot of people have objected to these, and yet there's really nothing bad, and they're Christian romances. It says, by the grace of God, I will be faithful to scripture reading and prayers, eat regularly, although my stomach twists and turns. Mourning doesn't mean I'm starving myself. My life is God. And this is about one of these brides that lost her mother, and through different circumstances came to have a home and a family of her own. But there are 6 stories in here, so I want to talk to you. I'll try to bring some of the others up here and show you these lovely end papers. All right. There are Christians that will get on their blogs and say that Christian women shouldn't be reading these. These are just like fantasy that make them think that life should be different than it really is. And we should just have reality all the time, and that it makes out that life is better than it actually is, and this isn't reality, this isn't how it happens, and in real life people aren't that nice, you know. But what I liked about these, and especially when my children were growing up, is it showed people learning to get along with other people and learning to like each other in spite of their faults, and overlooking things and going a little deeper, finding out about people, and boys being nice to girls and girls being nice to boys. And so for all these people that will say, I don't think we should be reading those, even the Christian ones. You know, Jeanette Oak was really popular, and we once had a set that big of all the hardbacks. You know, I always regretted giving those away to Goodwill. But the thing is, people will say, but that's not reality, and that just makes girls think that life is going to be easy. But these are not about that. And one thing that a lot of you don't realize is that some of us, these stories are very similar with the experience that we had. We married nice people. We had nice, helpful husbands that sacrificed for us, that took care of us, and that cared about their children, cared about earning a living, that lived good, clean lives. So to us, these stories are similar to what we experienced. However, before I was married, when I read them, I thought, well, that's what I want to experience. So that kept me, and a lot of women my age, from going after the wrong things in life, and kept us pursuing marriage and home and family. That's the best I can do to explain it, and so I don't object to them at all, because what is romance if not Song of Solomon? But you can't live on just that one book all your life. And if you I grew up on a homestead in the wilderness in Alaska. We had long winters that were dark, so we had piles of books around us, and we read. We learned to enjoy. In fact, when summer came, it was almost an interruption, because now we had a lot of work to do outside. We had to get the garden in, we had to harvest the potatoes, we had to harvest, and we had to work hard, and life was hard in summer. It was a real big rush to get it ready for winter. So the winter was actually a pleasure because we got to read a lot. So I want to go on now to the home and the house, and why the house and the home is kind of like your appearance. You know, you see a lot of magazines and books on home decor, but sometimes it's rather disappointing when you see the pictures of the women that are living in the home. They don't really care about their decor. So I think that your decor, your personal appearance ought to, in some way, reflect your home. If you care enough about your home to make it neat and tidy, make yourself neat and tidy. And so, and also in cooking, when you're cooking, one thing I noticed I think what's happening since everyone felt like they were isolated was that they would be cooking, and their taste buds come alive. Things taste so much better when you're using natural ingredients and you are creating the dish yourself. So of course the stores have all the pre-cooked ready-made products still in there, and no one's buying those. I say that in general, no one is buying those, but the ingredients seem to be missing until the next shipment comes in, and then right away, that's the first thing that disappears, is that your taste buds start coming alive once you start cooking or once you start eating food at home, if you and fresh food. But so everyone's tastes come alive, and that's one reason that they're buying all the ingredients instead of buying the ready-made thing. So I've been speaking for about 30 minutes, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to have left here. To talk to you about, but I hope that you'll get something done anyway. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about politics. So if you want to go on, first I want to, okay, you don't have to go yet, because I want to do this, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, which is one of the phrases of Jesus Christ. And so this is about your children having your children at home. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Well, no school would object to a child going to church or believing in God and believing in the Bible. And no school would object to doing things that are heartfelt or that they have their heart into. But when it comes to the mind, Christians are very careless with the mind. They believe, yeah, we should love God with all our heart and our soul. Well, that's we go to church on Sunday, don't we? We read the Bible at night, but the mind also belongs to God. So why do you send your children to a place that there's some kind of blinking going on here? Why do you send your children to a place that is going to absorb their mind when their mind also belongs to God? So that's why Christian education is so important, because you might think, oh, if you're a teacher, you might think, oh, there's no government indoctrination going on in the public school. But what you're not seeing is that when there's a vacuum, when there is nothing there for the mind that is spiritual, and I showed you in the McGuffey Readers how you can be reading a sentence and it will refer to God, and so that what they read also affects their conscience, affects their heart, and affects their soul. So reading was created by God so that we could read His Word and we could tell His Word. And so it's so important that your mind also belong to God. What are you watching? What are your children seeing you watching? Are you watching, listening, or reading the public drama on the news broadcasts? Is that affecting you? Your mind belongs to God. And it doesn't mean that you live without knowledge of what's going on. But for most of us, our knowledge of what's going on, our reality is going to be what we see around us, what's going on in our home. I know some women get very upset and they're always in a turmoil and they worry about everything. But when I say, okay, do you still have your car? Do you still have your house? Are you still home and safe? Has anyone kicked you out on the street? Are you living under a bridge? You start looking at what reality is, that you're still there. You know, are your children still there? Do you still have everything? And you might be threatened by a lot of things, and it might just worry you to death, but you just need to look at what you have, not what you don't have. Now, let's go into politics here. Do you remember when, well, let me start out by saying, now that the state has realized that the shutting down of business did not create the imbroglio that they thought it would, and that people are actually thriving at home, and a lot of women are not going to go back to work, and a lot of children will not go back to the public schools, and that a lot of dads even have figured out how to do their work at home and realize that their children need them at home, their family needs them at home. Then now that we know, the state knows that we know that we can do well enough at home, and that we did well on the internet, and some people actually prospered more because they got people to order things that they needed, including groceries. Well, then the next time, if they really want to slay us, they will cut off the internet, or they'll cut off, they will spread something about the danger of living at home. And so just be aware of that. But things are coming to light, and I would like to talk more about that to you, but you can find it on other things. I would suggest go to some of the places that I have suggested and find out more information. I think someone suggested to me to try X22 Factor. I haven't really gotten into that yet, but I have heard a couple of things from them, and he reads the scripture every now and then, and he also has a soothing voice. But do you remember in Sense and Sensibility, Colonel Brandon was reading to Marianne, who was recuperating from some kind of deathly illness, and he was sitting outside by her, and she was in a lawn chair, and he had a little book in his hand, and he read this poetry from Edmund Spence. For whatever from one place doth fall is with the tide unto another brought, for there is nothing lost that may be found if sought. Okay, so in politics, Edmund Spence no doubt got it from Luke 8:17 that says, for nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be made known and come to light. So in all this crisis, there are some things coming to light that should make Christians very happy, and anybody else very happy. It's going to benefit us all. And I wanted to tell you about hydroxychloroquine. Don't know, because in 1973 we went with a church group to Africa and got sick, and we went over to help a church over there, and we got sick, and we were given this hydroxychloroquine. We were given it. They're just 2 little tablets that we had to take, and we weren't given it very often, just a couple for a day or so, and we got well. I don't know what it was we had. They take it for several different things over there, but they don't take it all the time. But anyway, I haven't had any since then. That was way back then, and do you know, I have never ever gotten the flu. But it also is used for other things, like if you can look it up, you can look up the benefits of it. And it was sold like it was common. You could get it over the counter. It was like an aspirin or something. So one of the things that is going on is there's a big screeching and wailing from the pharmaceutical company and some of the senators and some of the representatives, because they get kickbacks from some of these pharmaceuticals that are sold for different health products that don't actually work. Not one size fits all, but they get a huge amount of money from the pharmaceutical sales, and the government pays for a lot of it, so they get huge contracts. And so, of course, they're screeching and hollering. They don't really care what works. They just want their money. And what we're finding out is that things are coming to light, just like I said in that Edmund Spence verse and in Luke 8:17. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be made known and come to light. Well, isn't that the truth? Things are coming to light. But as I said, once the state finds out how well we did, they will analyze it and decide what they can take away from us to make us less human and even more miserable. And at home, they might do something like say your water is poisoned and shut off your water. Or they may say the air coming out of your vents is poison, and they'll shut off your electric. Or they may say, you just never know what they're going to come up with. Whatever it is, it's because they're narcissists, and narcissists thrive on targeting someone who's happy, and whatever makes you happy, they will take it away from you. So whatever you're laughing about, smiling, they might even make a law against memes and humor. You never know, because laughter is the best medicine. So ladies, I don't have anything else to show you today, and I don't have anything else to discuss. This is a very short one, but it keeps me from having to sit here too long, and I have a lot to do. And so let me just look over my notes one more time and see if I left everything out. I think that even though it's short, there's a lot here that you could benefit from, and whatever you're doing, you could put this on continuous play and listen to yesterday's also. So because I haven't waited 2 days, I didn't have as much content today. I'm sorry about the lighting, but I hope that you listened and enjoyed it. And please leave a comment if you have time. But I'm not demanding comments because I know you have a lot to do. So until I see you next time, God bless. I love you. Bye.